Now we've officially moved into the passage questions, right? So it's not about a vocab word, it's much more detailed than that. This is where people tend to lose time. So we're gonna keep an eye on the clock. We wanna make sure we save enough time as we get through all these passage questions for the grammar, transitions, and outlines that come at the end of the module. So first things first though, we didn't really read the question for the vocab questions because they were repetitive. We knew the task. But for the passage-based questions, the actual literal question is going to change. So we need to pay close attention. Here it still is pretty general, right? What is the main purpose of the text? So I'm not going to read the answer choices because I don't want to bias myself. But as I'm reading, I'm kind of thinking like, is there a purpose to this? So let's just read and maybe come up with hopefully our own dumb summary of what the purpose is, right? I'm not expecting to come up with these kind of longer descriptions here, but I do think hopefully I can get something just kind of by instinct as I'm reading. Let's take a look. The following text is adapted from Louisa M.A. Alcott's 1869 novel, An Old-Fashioned Girl. Polly, a teenager, is visiting her friend Fanny. Okay. Fanny's friends did not interest Polly much. She was rather afraid of them because they seemed so much older and wiser than herself, even those younger in years. They talked about things of which she knew nothing, and when Fanny tried to explain, she didn't find them interesting. Indeed, some of them rather shocked and puzzled her. So I would say my dumb summary is Fanny's friends are, I don't know, bad? They might not actually be bad, but from Polly's perspective, which is what we're getting, that's kind of what I see here, right? There's a lot of negative words. They did not interest her. She's rather afraid of them. They're older and wiser. I know that sounds positive, but it's meant as a bad thing here. They talked about things she knew nothing. She didn't find them interesting. They were shocked and puzzled, right? So these are all bad emotions. So Fanny's friends are blank. We can even add to Polly, right? So that's not what the actual answer is going to be, but I'm hoping to get an answer choice that kind of captures that same idea. So let's look at A, to portray Polly's reaction to Fanny's friends. Well, maybe. Now notice that choice misses something though. It's missing the idea that it's a negative reaction, right? This is a much more neutral word. It doesn't talk about whether that's a good or a bad reaction. Now, I'm not going to eliminate that choice though. This is the key idea with the passage questions, is we're going to come up with a summary. And sometimes it's a very good summary. But it sometimes goes even further than the answer choice does. So we can get rid of an answer choice if it goes too far, if it goes beyond what the passage says. But we can't do it for the other reason. We can't do it because we're like, oh, this choice doesn't say enough. Weak, vague answers are usually right. So we're going to keep this one in. There's nothing wrong with it, right? Does it portray Polly's reaction to Fanny's friends? Yes. We know that it was a negative reaction. The choice doesn't say that, but I don't care. It's still a reaction. So let's look at B. To identify the topics Polly talks about with Fanny's friends. Well, it does say that she tried to talk about some things and that they were shocked and puzzled. But notice that this is a good example of a choice that goes too far. Do they talk about topics? Does she talk with the friends? Are they Fanny's friends? Yes. But it does not identify those topics. And I can turn this choice into a question, right? What are those topics? Now I would go back to the passage, and if I can't answer that question using the lines in the text, then it's not a good summary, right? So what are the topics? If they identify them, I should be able to name them. Doesn't say. It just says generally, they were older and wiser. They talked about things of which she knew nothing, but it doesn't say what those things were. So that is a good example of it going too far, saying too much. C, to explain how Fanny met some of her friends. Well, it doesn't say that. This might be how Polly is meeting them, right, through Fanny, but it doesn't say how Fanny met them, right? So that's gone. And then D, to illustrate how Fanny's friends feel about Polly. This is sneaky because we definitely have that idea of like a feeling, a reaction, but this is flipping it around, right? Look at A versus D. A is saying it's Polly reacting to the friends. D is the friends reacting to Polly. It's flipped. Now, if we just read quickly or maybe read choice D quickly, we might not notice that it's similar, but wrong. It's opposite. So this is why we always need to read every choice. In this case, A is definitely better, but if that had been flipped, right, if the choice D had been first, we might have jumped on that. And if we're really overconfident, we sometimes pick answers that are kind of close, and we're so excited that we found something close that we don't even bother reading anything more. And so that can never happen. You always have to read all the choices because sometimes there's a little bit of a trap out front, and we've got to make sure we don't pounce too early on that trap. Here, though, A is in fact the right answer, but I do want to reiterate what I said. Even though A is correctly summarizing the passage, It is absolutely leaving out key ideas from the passage, ideas that we didn't have any trouble picking up on and summarizing, right? Just this negative emotion that she gets. But that is a very common thing that you will see on SAT passage questions. They will have a summary that isn't very good, a summary that your English teacher would kind of give you a bad grade on because it's not detailed enough. But that's not our task. It's not to provide so much detail that we just basically rewrite the passage. It's to simplify it. And sometimes that means throwing some details aside. So don't worry about your own summary. Just try to get the most basic details that you can, and that's why I call it a dumb summary. We don't need to be smart. We don't need to show off how much we understood or how much we know. We can just get the basics down, and sometimes even that is more than we need to answer the question.